Hey, what is up, everyone? Brad here. And this week, I'm going to be following up from last week's video where I was going through ways to be able to improve conversions for your Facebook ads. So since last week, I had a bunch of people reaching out to me asking to either check their ads or other specific questions kind of on how to get more patient flow, how to get better leads, better quality leads, and ultimately how to kind of optimize their overall campaign so that way they're going to be able to get more. So last week we touched a little bit on the basics of understanding the purposes of an ad and how to really kind of structure them in a way that's going to ultimately be more compelling, so people who do opt in are going to be a better fit and that kind of thing. So we won't go into too much detail with that. If you missed that video and you want to watch it, just comment below and we'll make sure that we tag you in that so that way you can get caught up. So this week, I wanted to take a little bit step further based on the questions that I've gotten from everyone between now, last week and now. And there's really like two main concepts that I wanted to cover today. One, it's talking a little bit about the main drivers to being able to make sure that your ads, once you've established the basics of your offer and so on, are going to be in the best position to be able to convert. And there's a couple of key components here that people often forget or they don't know simply in order to make sure that your ads are going to run what I refer to as evergreen. Evergreen ads, especially for Facebook, are something that you want to be able to get to because evergreen basically means consistently you know that every single month you're going to get 15, 20, or 40 or whatever many patients it may be coming in through that. And ideally, you can run evergreen ads consistently forever. I've had some ads that I've ran for years and I've had very limited changes to them. I always recommend, and we won't save it too much from this video, but I always recommend doing a baseline that you know is going to be consistent, your evergreen, and then you always run a split test or dynamic to be able to understand like if there's if these variables that you change are going to be able to beat. Because I'm always trying to beat or outperform my baseline, because if the baseline anything goes wrong with it, or why wouldn't you ever want to get better? So won't get into too much detail there today, but if you want to learn more about ads or getting more specific for ads that are contextual for you to bring in patients that stay pay and refer, just comment below and we'll reach out to you. So the first point that I want to go through today, based on what we talked about last week, is understanding, number one, we're all understanding that the purpose of a Facebook ad is to essentially get leads to opt in. Now, we talked about some ways that we can filter leads to make sure that they're better and so on. But for the sake of the understanding of Facebook ads, we're really generating leads. That's the whole purpose of that. Now, the ad itself, the whole purpose of the ad is to get the click. And that's what we're going to be focusing on a little bit today. So I'm going to share my screen here in a sec. Now, in order for you to have a high converting ad that's going to get the right types of prospects coming to you who are going to stay, pay, and refer, and also make sure you're not getting tire kickers into your business, is we really need to have two things dialed in with the ad specifically. And the first one is your copy, and the second one is your creative. Now, the copy basically relates to all of the text that you've got in the ad. So we've got different sections of text, your headlines, primary text, and so on. And then the creative essentially is related to like the image or the videos that you're using here. Now, one of these is more important than the other. They're both incredibly important, and you need both of them in order to have an effective ad that's going to resonate with that ideal audience. But one of them has a little bit more pull than the other, and I'll explain why. So the one that's a little bit more important for Facebook is the creative, your image video. And the reason why is, remember when we were breaking down last week, the whole purpose of the ad is to get the click. Now, the first component of getting the click is we need to stop the scroll. So we talked about this last week. People are on Facebook, they're scrolling, they're looking at cats or memes or whatever, and they're not necessarily there to buy stuff. So we need to interrupt whatever someone is doing in making sure that they're going to stop and actually read the text. Because I could have the best text ever. I could have the best trained salespeople. You could have the best service and help people, cure cancer. But if people don't actually stop they're not going to read the text or your copy, and they're not going to click and take advantage of the offer and go any further. So creative is the most important aspect when you're putting these ads out, because we need to make sure that we have that pattern interruption and making sure we get people to stop. So there's a couple quick tips. We're going to share one of them that's super simple that generally gets really big impacts fast. So, and I'll touch on this a little bit. I generally find images do better than videos, because videos, number one, they just take longer to put together altogether. And there's more variables that could go wrong. So if someone needs to listen to you, or they see you and they don't like your haircut, or, they don't like the color of your shirt, or, the audio is off a little bit, then what can happen is you end up having people who are scrolling past it. There's a lot of variables to manage, plus they just take too long. So often I don't use videos too often. The only ads that I generally use videos for are testimonial-based ads, and they have a more specific purpose. Now, generally I'll do images, and I won't get into too much detail of the types of images that we use and so on. I'll give you guys a brief rundown, but that's like an entire, you could spend an entire whole conversation or hour on like the purpose behind them and the intent and that kind of thing. So from an image standpoint, I tend to like to take images that are going to resonate with the ideal person that I'm trying to attract. So for the most part, what a lot of people do is they take images of their business, of their logo, and that kind of stuff. I tend to find that those images don't do as well, because there's less of an emotional connection to getting the person to want to stop the scroll. So whatever images you do use, I generally recommend they're focused on either the outcome or the feeling or emotional component that is behind what the person is actually potentially feeling. So whenever you've selected the specific images that you've used, there's a tool that I use called Pixlr, Pixlr. And I'm just going to show you kind of what it looks like. It's a free tool online. I think there's a paid version. I don't use a paid version. I just simply do this. What I do is I drag and drop the image. So I've just taken a random image here. I typed back pain into Google, and I took the first one that was on there, and I uploaded it to here. So one component to being able to get people to stop scrolling is to simply increase the contrast. Now, this is a technique that I learned from Nick Kuzmich, who's like one of the world experts in Facebook ads. And what he recommends is being able to increase the contrast. So we can see what the image looks like here. Now, if I take the contrast and I increase it kind of like, 20, 30%, 40%, you're seeing that this image is going to stand out quite a bit more than just here. This is sort of, boring and so on. This is going to make the image pop out a little bit more and stand out. Now, in someone's news feed, there's some research showing that like the images that have higher contrast or better aperture, brightness, and exposure and that kind of stuff, those images will stand out, and subconsciously, because they're different than the other components of what regular people are posting, because they're obviously not going in to, when they're posting pictures or whatever and increasing the contrast and stuff. So it'll make the brain stop for a second to actually take a look at the image. So it's a way to amplify the effect of your image so that ultimately more people would have the potential to be able to stop. Now, I've split test this myself. I've used two of the exact same images. I've increased the contrast and edited one, and I left the other one, and the contrasted one every single time always outperforms. Same audience, same parameters, everything else, same copy. The only difference is that I increased the contrast, and I've ran both ads at the exact same time. So I found that increasing the contrast is a really simple way to be able to improve even potentially what you have now. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, there's copy and that components that need to be into there. We need to have the right offer and positioning, everything else. But this is a simple, hack, so to speak, that can help get your images to be more vibrant, stand out better, and ultimately get people to stop the scroll. So that way they can go back and start reading your text and potentially take you up on the offer. So hopefully you can take this tip away and implement to start getting better conversions. And if you want to be able to have super high converting Facebook ads and learn how I use Facebook to be able to generate, thousands of patient leads per year and being able to make sure that they're the right fit, then comment below. I'd love to be able to chat with you or send me a message, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about where you are and contextually what you need from Facebook ad campaign in order to get consistent clients or leads coming into you and being able to grow your business. Thanks again, guys.